Hi, I am Dr. Sampriti Panda, Assistant Professor of Anthropology, and our today's topic is life cycle ritual. Belief and rituals have always been the focus of anthropologists to study and understand society and culture. Both belief and rituals are found in every society because they are ingrained in the culture and structure of society. These beliefs and rituals vary from culture to culture, time to time, and from society to society. Belief is enrooted in aspect of everyday life, and ritual is the core of religious belief. The word ritual can be understood in the terms of a background of who is using it. Rituals create, maintain, and transform a society's cultural identity and a social relations. The connotation of ritual is very wide and comprehends many things, from performance of religious, ancestral and social traditions to manners and customs connected with belief systems. Ritual plays an important part in the life of people all over the world. The behavior pattern of life of not only an individual but also of a group can be well assessed from the prevailing nature of rituals in any society. A man may be best known from the rites he practices. However, the nature of ritual varies in different degrees under different socio-religious situations. Rites are ceremonies performed by a particular group of people, often for religious purposes. For example, initiation rite, funeral rites, marriage rites, etc. Ritual is thus a series of actions that are always performed in the same way, especially as part of a religious ceremony. Now coming to characteristics of rituals. The first one is formalism. Ritual uses a set of expressions in an organized and limited manner, which anthropologists call as restricted code. For example, there are certain formal things that give ritual a restriction code, such as use of a particular language while reading the holy book like Bhagavad Gita, Bible or Quran, or while reciting phrases, mantras or prayers. The second characteristic is traditionalism. Rituals follow tradition and repeat the historical actions and practices. Rituals reflect tradition, history, and shows how humans have adopted, modified, and absorbed these rituals. For example, the custom of American Thanksgiving dinner. The next characteristic is invariance. Rituals are uniformly marked by bodily discipline. For example, in a monotheistic religion, prayers are performed in union or in groups. In temples, at certain festivals like Shivratri, Janmashtami, people pray in groups or individually perform rituals. The next one is sacral symbolism. Activities based on the beliefs in God or supernatural being are considered as rituals, like in religious belief practices. It requires a human response also who expresses generalized belief in the existence of sacred beings. For example, symbols or signs or objects or holy book of religion that give people a religious feeling. The next characteristic is performance. It creates a frame around the activities, symbols and events which shape the order or pattern. It is said that until there is performance, ritual is socially meaningless. Not only is seeing or believing, but doing too. Thus, performance is clearly observed in all types of rituals. Now coming to different types of rituals. Rituals can be of more than one type. Some believe rituals are formed by supernatural power like God or goddesses, and if not performed in the prescribed manner, there are likely chances of bad things to happen either to the individual or to the whole group or community. Though there are no obvious type of rituals, yet they can be broadly classified into few types. The first type is contingent ritual. This can be subdivided into life crisis ceremonies performed at birth, puberty, marriage, death to demarcate the passage from one state to another in the individual or group's life cycle. These rituals are performed to exercise extraordinary qualities which are very unusual in a way that might make think that unknown forces are involved for protection, safety, security in a meaningful manner. The next is seasonal ritual. This may be seasonal or climatic depending on the crop, availability of food, water, pastures and resources. For example, sifting cultivators still follow the rituals prescribed from earlier times, like performing rituals before selecting a plot, before cleaning up the land, before burning the land, before sowing seeds or weeding, even before harvesting and fallowing. These people perform rites by taking care of the direction of wind, sun, moon, lunar or solar eclipse, etc. The next one is divinatory rituals. These are those ceremonies or customs that are performed by political authority to ensure the health and fertility of human beings, animals, crops in their area or territories, or even at times invitation to priesthood, into religious associations where food are offered and deities or ancestral spirits are worshipped. Now coming to different genres of ritual. The first one is rites of passage, such as birth, aging, marriage, death, initiation of becoming parents, etc., otherwise known as life cycle rituals. These ceremonies celebrate the transition of person from one social status to another. Our today's topic focuses on this life cycle ritual. Yet the other genres of rituals are calendrical or commemorative rites. These rituals are fixed and happen at a particular time of the year, which give an important meaning to the passage of time, which is created repeatedly in weeks, months, or yearly cycles. For example, in India, Purnamashi, Shivratri, Janmashtami, Holi and Diwali fall on different dates in each year, according to solar and lunar calendar. The next one is rites of solidarity, which involves welfare or betterment of the community, which is performed for the sake of enhancing social integration among group of people. For example, believe in the power of ancestor ghost to protect the moral order and a way of maintaining social harmony within the lineage. The next one is rites of affliction, which includes activities which implies or mitigates spirit that inflict human with misfortune. This comprises of forms of spirit divination, an art or practice of seeing the future using supernatural means to establish cause and rituals that cure, purify and protect. For example, the healing rites performed by shamans to cure illness of an individual or solve the problem of drought. The next one is rites of fasting and festivals. These are publicly expressed and reflect religious values. For example, communal fasting during Ramadan by Muslims or fasting on Shivratris are various other festivals by the Hindus. Now coming to life cycle ritual. A life cycle ritual can be described as a ceremony undergone by an individual when he or she enters one phase of life to another. It marks a change in a person's biological or social status at various phases throughout the life. Such practices are found in many societies and are often based on tradition of a community. The term life cycle ritual may be synonymous with rites of passage, as described by famous French anthropologist Arnold van Gennep in his book Les Rites de Passage in 1909. He pointed out that many of the rituals organized in a community on a number of occasions demarcate a passage or location or in time. Arnold van Gennep divided rituals into three phases: pre-liminal phase, liminal phase and post-liminal phase. Here, the term limen is a Latin word meaning threshold. The pre-liminal phase, the phase in which the person or groups who were the subject of the ritual were separated from their previous social condition. The second one is the liminal phase. This is the second phase in which they were in a marginal situation. And the last one is post-liminal phase. This is the final phase in which they were re-aggregated to their previous social condition or aggregated to a new social condition. In short, Arnold van Gennep spoke about three things: separation, transition, and incorporation. The initial stage of separation, in which the individual is divorced from his familiar environment. Next comes the transitional stage, in which the old identity is destroyed and a new one is created. And finally, the stage of incorporation, in which he is reintegrated into society in his new role. Rites of passage includes rituals, events that marks individuals' transition from one status to another, such as birth, aging, death, initiation of becoming parents, etc. Now, these ritual ceremonies have religious significance, which help both individual and the society to deal with different changes, such as birth, puberty, marriage, and death. For example, when a person marries, or he or she takes a new status and creates a new complex of social relations. Life cycle rituals or rites de passage are ceremonial events existing in all historically known societies that mark the passage from one social or religious status to another. These rites were originally established in order to link the individual to the community and the community to the broader and more potent spiritual world. Now coming to classification of rites. According to Arnold van Gennep, rites are classified into 6 broad categories. The first one is sympathetic and contagious. Sympathetic rites are those based on belief in the reciprocal action of like on like, or opposite on opposite, or of part and the whole, image and the real object, or word and deed. Contagious rites are characteristically based on a belief that natural or acquired characteristics are material and transmissible, either through physical contact or over a distance. The second category is direct and indirect. Direct rites, for example, a curse or a spell, is designed to produce results immediately without intervention by any outside agent. The direct rite is automatic in nature. Whereas indirect rites, for example, a vow, prayer, or religious service, is a kind of initial blow which sets into motion some autonomous or personified power, such as a demon or a deity, who intervenes on behalf of the performer of the rites. The effect of an indirect rite comes as a repercussion. The next type is positive and negative. Positive rites are positive volition or will, which are translated into action, whereas negative rites, otherwise known as taboos, are prohibitions or the commands not to do or not to act. They correspond to negative will. Now coming to significance of rites de passage. Many of the most important and common rites of passage are connected with the biological crisis or milestone of life. For example, birth, maturity, reproduction, and death, which bring changes in social status and therefore in the social relation of the people concerned. The French anthropologist and folklorist Arnold van Gennep, who coined the phrases rite of passage, saw rite as means by which individuals are eased without social disruption through the difficulties of transition from one social role to another. On the basis of an extensive survey of pre-literate and literate societies, Van Gennep held that rite of passage consists of 3 distinguishable and consecutive elements, as I told previously, that is separation, transition, and incorporation, or he said preliminal, liminal, and postliminal stages. He saw the significance of ceremonies as being social or cultural, celebrating important events that are primarily socio-cultural or human-made rather than biological. Life cycle rituals are found in all societies, although their relative importance varies. These rituals include celebrating childbirth, rites of pregnancy, etc. Now, these rites involve the parent as well as the child, and in some societies, These include the COVID. Yes, the COVID ritual, which centers attention at childbirth upon the father rather than the mother. At this time, the father follows elaborate rules of ritual procedure that may include taking to bed, simulating labor pain, and symbolically enacting the successful birth of a child. In all societies, some or the other ritual observances surround childbirth, marriage, and death. And even the degree of elaboration of these rites vary greatly even among societies of comparable levels of cultural development. Rites at coming of age are the most variable in time, in the lifespan, and may be present or absent in the societies. Death is one of the important life cycle ritual which is given attention in all societies, and the observances are generally religious in intent. Most commonly, rites at death are elaborate, and they include clearly all the stages of separation, transition, and reincorporation as noted by Van Gennep. The early work of British anthropologist Victor Turner and Mary Douglas paid attention to ritual symbols. According to Turner, the symbols developed and employed within social system represent oppositions, tension, and cleavages that rites were designed to resolve. Similarly, Mary Douglas highlighted the ways in which the human body serves as a natural symbol of pollution and purity during rites of passage and other rituals within social system based on taboo. Now coming to birth rites. Rites surrounding the birth of a child are often a complex of distinct rituals that prescribe different behavior on the part of the mother, the father, other relatives, and non-familial members of the society with respect to the newborn. Observance may begin when pregnancy is first rooted and may continue until the time of delivery, when the full rite of passage is observed, and for a variable period of time afterwards also. For example, anthropologist Alfred L. Kroeber reported that among most of the tribe of Aboriginal California, rites at childbirth were much alike for both mother and father. To prevent harm to their child and to other people during the ritual period, the parents observed food taboos. They performed little work as possible. They ate in seclusion, avoided contact with other people, and refrained themselves from various acts of ordinary behavior, including cooking, touching towels, and eating salts, eating meat and fish, etc. Even women who were allowed to scratch themselves only with a stick or a bone for the fear that their nails at this time would leave a permanent scar on their bodies. Similarly, another example cited by anthropologist Branislaw Malinowski, which is a classic example of COVID ritual. In this ritual, they practice a sympathetic symbol stressing on the relationship between the husband and the wife, especially when the child is born. This practice of the COVID established social paternity, which in turn promotes familial and social solidarity. The next is the initiation rite. The most prevalent initiation rite among societies of the world are those observed at puberty. These have frequently been called as puberty rites. The puberty among female is often defined as the time of the onset of menstrual cycle. But no such clearly identifiable points exist in the sexual maturation of the males. Moreover, the age at which rites of attaining maturity is done vary greatly from society to society. The definition of maturation is thus seen to be largely social or cultural rather than solely biological. Ordeals or other tests of manhood and womanhood are also a part of this initiation rite. For example, among the Bemba tribe of Africa, young girls were required to catch insect with their mouth Even circumcision or other genital operation are also a fairly common feature of these rites celebrating or making the attainment of maturity. Similarly, among the Aboriginal Samoas, boys were circumcised at any age from 3 years to 20 years for initiation rites. Next comes the marriage rites. Most of the anthropologists assume that marriage is one of the earliest social institutions, and the rites related to marriage are observed in almost every historically known society. These rites vary from extremes of elaboration to utmost simplicity. Marriage in both literate and pre-literate society is seen by social scientists as a cooperative liaison between two different groups of kin, between whom some feeling of hostility exists. Like rites of coming of age or initiation rite, ceremonies at marriage have often included clearly visible symbols of the new social status in the form of wedding rings, distinctive hairdresses, garments, tattoos, ornaments, and even other embellishments. A rite of marriage also often give instructions and symbolic acts that depict the woman's role in society. Even her economic and social obligations and preferences towards her husband, children, relatives, and other members of the society. The next is death rite. All human societies have belief in soul or spirit and an afterlife. And all the societies conduct rituals when people die. E.P. Tyler developed the argument that animism had its origin in the dream and death experience. The body-soul division was perceived by ancient people in dream that persuaded them to believe that ghost soul survives the destruction of the body. James G. Fraser explained his idea and argued that mortuary rituals were motivated by the fear of the ghost and soul of the deceased. The death and disposal of the dead is always associated with elaborate performance of ritual in all human societies. The basic function of mortuary preparation is to free the living from the defilement of death and to ensure a safe and successful passage into the afterlife. Indeed, the proper performance of funerary rite is needed to enable the dead to depart the place and the condition that they properly belong to. Death forcefully separates the deceased from the friendship and company of their living parent, spouse, or co-worker. The period of preparing the dead for burial or cremation moves them into the transitional phase, when they are neither what they have been or what they will become. Such moment of transition often involve uncertainty and potential danger and therefore grief. The ritual purity or the ritual impurity of the corpse derives from its inability to respond to other is greatly felt. Accordingly, people pay their respect to the dead, marking their former identity with them, and expresses sorrow for the bereaved. And by doing so, they reaffirm the continuing relationship with them. For example, the burying of the dead appeared to have been a common custom among all the non-Aryan people of Assam. Among the non-Aryans, the Ahoms used to bury their dead before embracing Hinduism. But right now, they follow the Hindu ritual of cremation. Similarly, the Mikir and the Deori tribe of Assam cremate their dead. But among the Bodos, all the three customs are prevalent. Some of them cremate their dead, some buried them, while the third section simply take the dead to the burial ground and leave them there. The Deori tribal could not cremate a man who has died of an epidemic, but first bury him and then exhume the skeleton. The another example is of Khasi and Rabha, which follow the custom of burying and cremating, a practice of secondary burial system. In the case of newly born children, they most often bury them. Now coming to the last part of this topic. In the developed countries and modern societies, as people live longer and become more affluent, there has been a shift in the practices of life cycle ritual. New conceptualized stages have emerged, such as bridal shower, bachelor parties, baby showers, etc. Now, these celebrations have been derived from the evolving staged in life and signify progression and change. They can be culminated and categorized under traditional classification of life cycle ritual and represent the dynamic growth of society and culture in today's modern and technologically advanced world. Traditional rites and rituals have also been revived and expanded with the passage of time. Such practices encourage unity and equality within society. Now concluding, rite de passage are the ways in which human beings indicate transformation from one social status to the next, and it includes ceremonies commemorating personal milestones such as birth, maturity, marriage and death. Now with this, we complete our topic of life cycle ritual. What we have learned from this whole topic is what is ritual and the characteristics of rituals, the different types and different genres of ritual. We have also focused here on the life cycle ritual, especially on the birth rite, marriage rite, initiation rite and the death rite, with some of the examples from different and various societies. I hope with this the topic of life cycle ritual is understood by all of you. Thank you.